Welcome to the Iferia TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today, we are joined by Olga Topchaya, the founder and CEO of Lapis AI Consults. She helps mid-sized businesses cut wasted time and costs with custom AI. Work has turned $15 support tickets into pennies using conversational AI assistants and freed teams from busy works that slow growth. With more than a decade in marketing and product, she brings a business-first perspective to AI that translates technology into measurable results for leaders. Olga is a proud boy mom and founded her AI company on the same philosophy with which she views parenting, the need for adaptability, continuous learning, and contextual understanding. So, Olga, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's dive in. You have a fascinating philosophy. You run your AI company with the same principles you use in parenting. That's adaptability, continuous learning, and contextual understanding. So how did that unique perspective shape your approach to solving business problems with AI?
Yes, thank you. So what we realized fairly early on is that it's not enough to just have great technology. You need to have people using it properly. If they're not using it properly, time and money out the window, right? AI, it's a tool. But at the end of the day, people have to prompt it properly. If they're using a chat assistant, of course, there's other tools. But at the end of the day, even if you're using Canva features, right? You need to know what AI features exist within Canva, for example. Many people don't know. And so they will end up spinning their wheels, not knowing that there's bulk edit, for example, or that there are synthetic data available, tools out there available, and that they can use them in certain ways. And so they spin their wheels. Or when we build software for them, because we build custom software, then they will use it in a certain way and they won't necessarily get the proper training when we hand off the software. And then they'll say, oh, well, the AI doesn't work. And what you need to train people how to prompt and how to use whatever tool it is that they're using, how to use it correctly. What is it intended to do? And what is the intended outcome? Because the reality and the expectations are often completely misaligned. So we found that frequently people will think, oh my God, AI is magic. It can do everything, right? And then other times, they'll type something and they'll say, well, this is a bad output. AI is worthless. It can't do anything, right? So you need that training. It's about the people. It is absolutely critical. And in order to understand, to do that, you have to understand people. You have to understand, what does their day look like? What does their workflow look like? What context are they operating in? Not just what context do they give AI, because you have to give AI context, right? AI is all about context and, garbage in, garbage out, right? It's all about the data. But you have to understand the person's context. Are they operating within certain constraints? Are they operating on the field where there is a lot of noise? Are there a lot of distractions? Are their documents a mess? You have to understand this context. And that requires a lot of patience. Patience with people and patience with AI. AI requires a lot of patience. So when I train people, because this is now a core offering that we offer for our customers. We train people on tools that are out there, and we train people on software that we build as well. And when I do the training, I train people patience, because that is also critical. So I have to have patience with people, but people also have to have patience with the AI because there's no other way you learn. It's like playing a new instrument, right? When you learn an
Yeah.
instrument, you have to have patience. In the beginning, maybe it won't work as well because you don't know what you're doing. But as time progresses, you get better and better and better, and things become more rewarding. And then all of a sudden, you have a symphony.
Fantastic. So, you talk about how you train people on how to use available AI tools. And of course, you also talked about how you train people on how to use your AI tools. So I'd like to ask, are you building an AI tool at Lapis AI Consult?
We do, yes. We build custom AI software. So a company will come to us and say, hey, I have this problem. Can AI solve it? And
Mm,
sometimes the problem may be, our operations are slow or we're suffering in sales and marketing. Maybe we're suffering in HR or our documents are a mess and we can't find information. Our tech support tickets are through the roof. Our customer service is suffering, right? So
yeah,
people have all kinds of problems that they come to me with. And we see, can AI solve it? Or is this a people problem? Because it could be a people problem. So the
yeah.
first thing you need to figure out is AI really the fix here? Is it a data science problem? Because that could also be, issue. And then we see, are there off the shelf tools or do we build something custom for you? So we have a
Mm.
framework that we use, decision framework and build versus buy. And we walk you through it and we decide, do we build or do we buy? And we build a lot of different tools out there. We've built RAG-based solutions. If you're familiar with RAG, is for people who are not familiar, it is advanced knowledge management essentially. So you're like using, for example, ChatGPT or any other AI, Claude, but you're using it with your own data. So instead of ChatGPT relying on whatever it's been trained on, it's using your documents and it's using it at scale. So you can have thousands of documents in PDF or text or images or whatever. And you can ask the question in a natural way and get the answer back, whatever the question you might have of your information, whether it's policies or it's tech support or it's marketing or it's training or anything of that nature, whatever that question is. So we built the knowledge bases. We've built software for the construction industry to help fill out forms and send off to their contacts on the field. So work orders, requisition orders, things like that. We've built software for the emergency preparedness space to help ideate scenarios in emergency preparedness and help people prepare, so governments, nonprofits, prepare for disasters. We've built customer support assistance in insurance. So we've built a very wide variety of products.
So you've also identified that companies are losing at least $32,000 per employee on a task that AI can automate. So when you walk into a new company, what are the telltale signs or quote unquote red flags that immediately show you where that massive waste is happening?
Yeah. So so the way we've identified it, there are three core areas that you can look at. You would look at essentially what we call looking for your keys, right? So information is all over the place. Doc information is in Word files, in Google Docs, on drives, on intranets. It's just everywhere, right? There's no one single source of truth that everyone can go to and get information. People will go to people, they will go to ask Bob, they will go to ask Sally, they will go and search online, they will go and search and search and search and search. And that is an incredible time waste. We found that roughly 10% of an employee's time goes on just finding basic information, even things that you should easily know, like what was our revenue last quarter? Most companies have no idea what was our revenue last week, last month, last quarter. It's information that you should easily be able to tell. and they don't know. So information search is a big one. The second piece is admin tasks, right? So things like updating project boards, copy paste, right? A lot of copy paste happening everywhere. So
Yeah.
I'll talk to different functions and I'll talk to executives, of course, but I'll ask them what are their processes, and I'll start digging into what a company's processes are. But there's a lot of copy paste happening everywhere. And I'm simplifying, of course, but essentially what it boils down to is inefficiency in processes. And that's roughly another like 10%. And then another 10% is role specific tasks that can be automated. So here's where we really need to talk to like a specific individual, and we'll ask them what does their day look like. Maybe we'll chat with the individual depending on how senior that person is. Right? And I guarantee you, there is not a single role out there where they don't have a repetitive task of 10% that they do every single day. It can be reporting, it can be research, I mean, it can be writing, it can be anything, but that is specific to that role that can get automated. And that's how we get to that 30% figure. And these are rough numbers. Every company is different. Some company will have a little bit more, some company will have a little bit less, but these are like baseline. I've seen companies that we can automate much, much higher than that. I just don't say the numbers because then people will get scared. The core thing to also keep in mind is many companies, they think, oh, we'll bring in AI and then we fire half our staff. Does not work like that. Does not work like that. What you have to keep in mind is that somebody still needs to press the buttons. Okay. It's like saying we're going to buy Excel and all of a sudden we can fire everybody, right? Somebody still needs to write the formulas. Maybe, you'll need people doing the math, but somebody still needs to write the formulas. Even if you have implement agents, somebody still needs to give the direction to the agent. Somebody still needs to oversee that the work is being done correctly. So let's start with that. Second of all, from an organizational perspective, you will have a bunch of people who were working on projects. And now what happens to these projects, right? These are, things that AI can't just magically take over. Conversations that happened between people, knowledge that existed, and then it just disappears. And then you have a bunch of people who will be depressed because their coworkers are leaving, because now they're worried about losing their job. So they're going to start looking for work, and they're not going to be thinking about their work. They're going to be thinking about looking for work and interviewing and writing lead code or, whatever interviews, right? They're not going to be focused on their job. So they're going to be checked out essentially. And that's when things are going to burn. I think I have to always remind people, because you see, in US, I don't know if this was the case in Nigeria where you're at, but in US, there was a phenomena where a bunch of big companies implemented AI and then fired a bunch of people, right? We don't recommend that at all to be the case. Maybe you can let go of a couple of interns that bring you, coffee, don't really do much, but that's beyond that. Like, please keep your people on staff. The goal is to retrain your workforce so that they can now get rid of all the stupid busy work that you're paying them to do that's not moving your bottom line. That is the actual goal. And then you can move your bottom line, because people have to be where people excel in relationships, in sales, in management, right? And creativity. These are the kind of areas.
Great. That was very insightful, Olga. So moving forward, you say that most AI implementations fail because they ignore the human element. So what does a successful people-first AI integration plan actually look like in practice? And how do you get employees from fear to excitement?
Yes, that's a fantastic question. I'm very happy you asked. So you have to be transparent with people. That's the very first thing. Don't try to implement AI into everything. That's a big mistake. I see people. They will take on these ambitious projects and then they get stuck in very long development cycles. And by the time they're done, the technology has changed, the architecture has changed, and half of the APIs they were using are no longer supported. So that's not the way to go. You want to find one use case for one team or one department that you can make an impact in immediately. So maybe
Mm,
customer support, maybe tech support, maybe marketing or sales, whatever it is for you. Maybe it's in, whatever your department is, maybe on the engineering, whatever your department is. You pick one team, one group, and one use case where things are slowest and error prone. That's where you got to tackle it. And expensive. If things are expensive, we got to tackle that for you, right? So then you
mm,
can see an immediate impact because we can potentially get rid of those costs. Like we built an AI solution for tech support to reduce $15 tech support tickets because that's what their IT department costs, right? And we offloaded that to AI. So people are not asking, how do I reset my password 15 times to the same IT guy, right? That you are paying $100,000 or however much they were paying them. I don't know what they were paying them, but the tech support tickets were $15 a pop. Yeah, I can just help with that very easily. And then the tech support person, does the hardware stuff. So pick one area. Then you have to be very transparent with your people. So you say, we're going to implement an AI tool and you're going to be expected to use it. And the time savings that you're going to get from it, right? We will be expecting you to take on this other responsibility. And this will be hopefully a responsibility that they'll be excited about, right? Because
mm,
let's get real. Like most people are not that interested in copy paste. Most people are not that interested in spending 3 hours a week searching for a document on their hard drive somewhere, right? That's not a thing most people enjoy doing with their time. So you say to them, like, identified that most people search 3 hours a week for documents, right? We're going to free up that time. We're going to teach you how to use AI properly to get you that information. And with those extra 3 hours a day, 3 hours a week, whatever it is that we're saving them, we do the KPI analysis. You will be expected to take on this other task that is a core responsibility to your job function, right? Maybe the thing that they were actually hired to do, right? And then you get them involved, right? So user feedback is really important when we're building, especially if you're building something custom. It's great to get feedback on things like UI, for example, right? That's very, very critical. So it's important to get their feedback. When people feel like they're involved, they don't feel like AI was just dumped on them, right? They feel like they're a part of the process, and it's a coworker more than like someone evil force out there that's going to take their job. It's there to help them. It's an assistant. So you want to get them involved. And then you can, as you expand to other teams, you can do things that are more fun. So for example, you can host a hackathon where with just, for example, vibe coding, you will have like creative AI use cases. Who can come up with the most creative AI use case with just vibe coding? Because you don't want engineers winning all the awards, right? So
mm,
without writing a single line of code yourself, maybe with just vibe coding, and then you give them a reward that is actually interesting. A coffee maker, cool, but like 2 extra days of PTO, now we're talking, right? So now things are getting a little bit
yeah.
more exciting. And you can give them 2 extra days of PTO. Most companies can afford to do something like that, right? So make the reward exciting, make the reward interesting, something like that. get people involved, and that'll get them more excited. And then you show them how they can be successful. So like when we do our trainings, for example, we'll start with one core team, and then we'll use the successes of that team. We'll publicize the successes of that team so they can become like poster children for the rest of the company before we move on to the next team, as opposed to doing just like one mass lecture for the entire company. Because when you do just only one mass lecture for the entire company, it's like in one ear, out the other. Maybe something sticks, maybe it doesn't. But for the most part, maybe you get like a 50% retention rate at best. Whereas if you do core teams in like groups of 5 to 8, it becomes transformation from within, kind of like divide and conquer. Think of it more like that. And then you get people more excited because then they begin to talk amongst each other, even in, even in a remote setting, right? People have meetings and they meet, and little bands are here and there. Oh, I just did the AI workshop. Did you do the AI workshop yet? Oh, not yet. Oh, I'm scheduled for that next month. Yeah, I did the workshop and, I learned this tool and now I'm getting, like X more productive, right? Like people share these stories with each other. But this can happen when you're doing it in smaller groups.
Fantastic. That was indeed a brilliant response there, Olga. So I'd like to ask for the professionals who are worried about AI replacing their jobs, what would you say is one tangible, high value skill they can start developing today to not just stay relevant, but become indispensable in an AI augmented workspace?
Get better at prompting. 100%.
Mm.
I work with these tools all the time. Even agents, that automate your workflows, right? You still need to learn how to prompt. And companies that I talk to, they are looking for people that know how to prompt it. So if you learn how to prompt, that is your core. Like there's other skills you're going to need. Ultimately, you're going to need to learn what are the different tools out there and how can you use those different tools? Because there's, like we have a saying, there's an AI for that, right? There's literally an AI tool for everything. So eventually
Yeah.
you're going to want to familiarize yourself with all of the different AI tools and try them. And a lot of them have free trials and freemiums, and you want to start using them so that you can do your job faster. But at the core of it, you want to get good at prompt strategies. And you can go on our website, lapisconsults.com. There's a resource section. There's a prompt guide that you can download for free. But that'll get you started and get good at prompts. And we do trainings. We do one-on-one coaching also for people to help them with their prompt strategies in their specific workflow. So we would identify a goal for you. What is it that you're trying to get better at? And then we would train you one-on-one on how to improve with AI. So whether you use us or whether, someone else, prompting is the absolute number one critical thing that you need. It's absolutely critical. You need to learn how.
Oh, wow, that's indeed a very powerful opinion, getting good at prompting. So I like to ask, what is the most common and costly mistake you see companies make in their first 30 days of an AI implementation that almost guarantees that it will fail?
Trying to swallow the ocean. Like they will try to make their AI do everything instead of making it do one thing really well. That is
Hmm.
the biggest, by far the biggest mistake. And it's gonna that's not how, because you need to iterate on it. If you're just implementing AI, you want to start small, get good, iterate, expand. That's the way that you build properly. If you try to swallow the ocean and have it do anything and everything under the sun, you're going to try to over engineer it. You're going to get stuck in long development cycles. The architecture is going to change by the time you're done. This is a true story. This happened. Like I speak from my own mistakes because we had early on, we had a client that came to us with a very big project and we got very excited because we were young and small and we said yes. And it was, we completed the project, but it was very, very difficult. It took a very long time. And, there was a lot of integrations, integrating with Teams and building a Teams app in Azure. And it was just a lot, right? Don't try to have it do everything and integrate with everything and be for everyone and do all the things. Just like small use case, if possible, even avoid integrations in the beginning. You can integrate later, have it be a standalone, right? So that you can actually make sure that it's working, because integrations is where things begin to get complicated. So if you can avoid integrations in the beginning, that would be great. And then layer integrations afterwards. And then that is really just keeping it simple, because otherwise things will be, kind of snowballing. You're going to have scope creep. You're going to have this person come in and say, I want, this thing in it. And then this executive comes in and they will say, oh, I want this thing in it. And this executive say, I want this thing in it. And this influencer will say, I want this thing in it, right? So you need to have what's in scope, and then just as critically, out of scope, right? All of these other things for this iteration are out of scope. These things are going to go into the next build or in the next launch, or however you want to phrase it. But right now, this is the thing, this narrow thing is what we're focusing on. And then you can launch it and you can have people use it and you explain to them what it is for, and they're using it for that one thing. And then you get their feedback. You get their feedback and you iterate on their feedback. You have real life feedback. And then you can already begin to build and layer on top. Otherwise, you're going to be building for a year and then it's going to have a bunch of bugs in it. There's going to be like 50 people in the room with opinions. Everyone has an opinion, everyone, right? So that's not how things are done. So this is my best recommendations I can give companies.
Fantastic. Really interesting response from you. So, Olga, part of the theme of this podcast is centered around innovation. And for that reason, I like to ask every guest I have a conversation with on this podcast a question on innovation. So, for in your work, which involves translating the raw potential of AI into tangible, measurable business outcomes, what does the word innovation truly mean to you?
It means doing what we couldn't do yesterday. That's it. Today we can do it, and yesterday we couldn't. That's all it really is. And the pace at which AI is evolving, we have innovation every single day, maybe even every single hour, because every day I open up Hugging Face or I open up my LinkedIn newsfeed, I see something new comes out. And it is incredible the speed at which we are evolving. The architecture with which we are building today and the speed at which we are building, I mean my company, are building today is just light years ahead of what it was just 6 months ago. The things that we were building 6 months ago that would have taken us months to build, we can do in weeks. It's absolutely, absolutely incredible. The accuracy systems that we are able to build compared to a year ago is like tenfold. What we're developing now, we are building knowledge bases that we are doing now are using vision models as opposed to just pure large language models. And that accuracy, like it's shocking to me. I can't, sometimes I'm surprised by how amazing the responses are, because a year ago, the accuracy on things like images and tables was it was okay, but it would struggle. Like we had to do a lot of user education around images and tables. Now, images and tables are very easily processed, right? That's
Hmm.
innovation. You couldn't do it yesterday, we're doing it today.
Yeah, amazing. So finally, for our listeners who are inspired to stop wasting time and start leveraging AI strategically, so what is the best way for them to take the next step with you and Lapis AI Consults?
Yes, they can find me on LinkedIn. If you're a business and you want to do some training for your employees because you're just getting started, I'm happy to get on a call. Or if you want to figure out what AI tools are available off the shelf, or you want something custom built because you already know that you have a problem and off the shelf solutions are not meeting your needs, happy to get in a call. You can find me on LinkedIn or go on our website. And if you're an individual and you just want to get better at AI for your work, then I'm also happy for us to talk. I do one on one coaching. And again, you can find me on LinkedIn or lapisconsults.com.
All right, Olga, it's been a really great and insightful conversation with you here today, and I am excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was great.